case you didn't notice, it's very cold here. So to get my mind off the cold, I'm thinking of the warm season by working on my Dune Buggy. Things I need to get done now is I need to free up the back brakes because the back brake drums are seized, and I gotta be able to do that if I want to see if my transmission is in decent enough shape to use. I also want to get the front roll hoop structures set up so that way I got a thing to mount my steering to, and then I can get my seating position all set up and see how comfortable it is in the driving position. Then I'll get the main roll hoop done. We'll finish up the securing mounting points of the windshield, stiffen the windshield up a little bit because I do plan on hanging some doors off of it as I want this to be an all-weather, all-season buggy. So with that, let's crack on. I might put my jacket back on because it's still kind of cold. If you remember our last episode on the Dune Buggy, I made and installed some new floor pans out of recycled aluminum, which support my full weight, which is a grand achievement in of itself. We got the right-hand drive pedal assembly installed, got the steering box moved onto the right side, and got all the tie rods and everything put where they need to be. We also shortened the shift rod, and we make sure that the transmission shifts into all the gears. Now we're on to the next job. So with the right-hand drive swap mostly done, we can steer the car, we can point it any direction we want. Downside is we can't move it because it doesn't roll. Because the rear brakes are seized. 30 years of corrosion have left the rear brakes very tense, but a little bit of massaging with a hammer and some rectangular tubing made things all nice and loose and flexible again. Here we go. How bad is it? Ta-da! With the brake drum off, we assessed the condition of the transmission, which seemed to turn freely. We then removed all the brake components, put the drum back on, so that way we could wheel this around the shop with ease. So work continues. We got the rear brakes freed up, so that way we can roll this around the shop now, and we can test out the transmission, make sure the transmission shifts into all gears and works the way it should. Something else I'm going to do today is we're going to start our safety cage structure, our roll hoop structure. First thing I'm going to start with is we're going to do the first hoop. It's going to go under the dash here. What that's going to do is that's going to support the steering column for us. Because I want to get the seating position worked out from that hoop there, which then we can plan from where that's at and go and tie in the rest of the hoops that we're going to need. We're going to have, a classic Dune Buggy roll hoop look. We're going to have a main hoop here, and then we're going to have a hoop behind the dash, and then a hoop down here by our feet, and it's all going to be tied together. So that way we've got some, front impact protection and a little bit of side impact protection. We're hoping for no impacts, but we're going to be prepared for it in any case. So let's get to it. We'll show you what we got to work with here. So building the structure underneath the hood is actually going to be quite easy. I had this tubing kicking around from a previous project. I was trying to make a rollover bar, but I ended up bending it way too narrow. So it wasn't wide enough for what I originally intended it for. But it is the perfect width to fit under the hood of the Dune Buggy to hold the steering column. So all I had to do was chuck it into the bandsaw here and cut the legs down so it was short enough to fit under the hood. All that's left to do, weld the parts together in a lovely little welding montage. Now that we have all this mocked up, we have our front end bracing in place, sort of where it's going to be, and it fits under the hood nicely. Next step is to focus on turning this piece of straight tubing into our rollover hoop. But before we do that, we need to get this where I want it to be, because I want the angle of the windshield to match as closely as I can the angle of the main roll hoop structure. So we got to mount this permanently, but right now, as it is, I don't really have a place to mount this to other than screwing holes to the fiberglass. Also, I want to get a neater little flange solution here on the down legs, so I got a little bit more surface area to bolt stuff to, and it should be a whole lot stronger, because when people get in and out of these things, they tend to grab onto the windshield. So I need to make it strong, but also I'm going to build some measures into this to try and limit anybody grabbing onto this and trying to hurl their way out. Also, it's got to be strong enough to be able to hold tight a soft top roof. I'm also going to be building a hard top for this in the future as well. So this has got to be plenty strong enough to hold the windshield and all that stuff. I might even hang doors off of it, so we need to make this pretty strong. It's made out of architectural aluminum. Right now it is a square channel, so it's wide enough to hold a gasket and a 1/4 inch thick safety glass windshield. What I will be doing is I will be sticking some angled aluminum on the back edge here, which will give us a flat mounting surface against the hood, and then I'll be welding some upright steel plates on our steering tubing structure in the front here, so I can put a through bolt to go all the way through this, and the fiberglass to hold the hood down, hold the windshield up, and be a nice strong mounting point other than just using the fiberglass. So let's get to it. So our first step is to get our windshield laid out and get ready to start taking some measurements. I want this to be about 21 inches long. You can see the mark I made earlier is on the money. We chuck the angle aluminum into the bandsaw and get it chopped down to size. Now that my angle's cut down to size, what I need to do is match up the contour with the side of the hood to the same contour I have here on the windshield. We make a few marks where I want to make some strategic bends. Once we've had all the marks, I will show you how to bend this without using the right kind of bender and still keep the shape. We're going to use the torch to anneal the aluminum. A problem that some of these soft metals have is that they tend to crack when you bend them. By annealing it, what we're doing is we're softening the metal a little bit, and that allows us to put some gradual bends in it. This method, what we do is you see the black Sharpie line. All you have to do is heat up the aluminum until the black Sharpie line starts to disappear. Once that line disappears, then we know that the aluminum has reached the perfect temperature for annealing. When it's gone, I'll show you the bending method. So there really isn't any magic to this next part. You just clamp it to something sturdy and then you step on it till it's reached the desired radius. I think that'll do. With a fit that good, now we're going to switch to our mounting fasteners. These are really cool. They're kind of like a blind screw nut kind of thing. That way they won't interfere with the windshield inside of the channel, and it'll keep a really nice, clean look on the outside. Next, I can drill holes for the blind screws, bolt it together, drill some holes to mount it, then we can mock it up and see how it looks on the buggy. That's good there, but how does it look overall? Wow, not bad for $40 worth of materials in this windshield. Now that we've got the windshield mocked in, we can work on the roll hoop. So now we're on to measuring the height of the roll hoop. Per SCCA rules, you want it to be about 6 inches above a helmeted head. Now, I don't plan on doing any kind of competitive racing or anything like that, but If there's a good rule book to follow as far as safety goes, the SCCA guidelines are a pretty decent one.
So 44.
So the first step when bending over the roll hoop is you got to find the center of how wide you want it. So we know this is 12 feet, so we're going to find the center at 6. Okay, here we go. And 6 feet. Whee. So while Jesse sweeps up the leaves that have blown into the shop over the fall and the winter, I'm going to measure how wide we want the roll hoop. I want it to be about as wide as the windshield at the top, and then it'll bend out and meet the width of the tub here at the back where it's going to sit. So it should look pretty nice. I hope anyway. So my measurement of the windshield came out at about 44 inches. So we want to find the center and measure out 22 inches either side of the center that we marked earlier. This will kind of show us where our first bends are going to be. So here I got a pretty easy way to plan out how the bend is going to be formed. First, I take the die out of the bender and I clamp it onto the tube. I then find a scrap of notched tubing and I line it up on that outside mark that I made, which is my total width of the roll hoop. I make it square to the tube and then I get the die fitting up just nice so that way we can see how it all works out. Push that in and then see this line. We're pretty close here. There we go. So now by doing this, I know what our bend is going to be with this being the outside of the tube. See, as we pull on it, what it's going to do is kind of form it this way, and we want to pull that this way. So what I can do here, take my paint marker, and then I will make my mark where this is going to be on the die. Then we take everything over to the bender and get it all clamped up and lined up on the marks. And then with sheer force and leverage, we just bend this into the shape that we want it. So with the steering column support structure in place and the roll bar about where it's going to be, now we got to make some side impact bars that will triangulate and tie both the roll hoop and the steering column structure together as one unit. After we got all the bars tack welded in place, we thought it was a nice enough day we could wheel it outside and actually get a look at it from far away. It was really nice that things warmed up just enough to wheel this outside and really see the big picture. So that's not bad. Got quite a lot done in this installment. So remember, stay tuned if you want to see more. Thanks for following along on this crazy adventure. Sorry. Hello viewers. If you'd like to stay up to date on my Camp Wagon revival and see me revive other cars that have been forgotten about, click here. If you want to stay up to date on all the other projects that I've got going on, be sure you subscribe and click the notification bell. Try to post as often as I can. Also, if you like guitars, check out my other channel here. I buy and sell old guitars, and the weirder the better. I have the same taste in cars as I do guitars. So thanks. Keep watching.